Chapter 9. Where are ye going? Said a voice with a strong Scotch accent. I stopped and looked. The sound of the unicorns had long since died away, and my flight had been brought me to open country. I saw the mountains where the unchanging sunrise lay, and in the foreground 2 or 3 pines on a little knoll, with some large, smooth rocks, and heather. On one of the rocks sat a very tall man, almost a giant, with a flowing beard. I had not yet looked one of the solid people in the face. Now, when I did so, I discovered that one sees them with a kind of double vision. Here was an enthroned and shining God, whose ageless spirit weighed upon mine like a burden of solid gold. And yet, at the very same moment, here was an old, weather-beaten man, one who might have been a shepherd. Such a man as tourists think simple because he is honest, and neighbors think deep for the same reasons. His eyes had the far-seeing look of one who has lived long in open, solitary places, and somehow I divined the network of wrinkles which must have surrounded them before rebirth had washed him in immortality. I don't quite know, said I. Ye can sit and talk to me then, he said, making room for me on the stone. I don't know you, sir, said I, taking my seat beside him. My name is George, he answered. George MacDonald. Oh, I cried. Then you can tell me. You, at least, will not deceive me. Then, supposing that these expressions of confidence needed some explanation, I tried trembling this man all that his writings had done for me. I tried to tell how a certain frosty afternoon at Leatherhead Station, when I first bought a copy of Fantasies, being then about 16 years old. When I first bought a copy of Fantasies, had been to me what the first sight of Beatrice had been to Dante. Here begins the new life. I started to confess how long that life had delayed in the region of imagination merely, how slowly and reluctantly I had come to admit that his Christendom had more than an accidental connection with it, how hard I had tried not to see that the true name of the quality which first met me in his books of his holiness, which first met me in his books. How hard I had tried not to see that the true name of the quality which first met me in his books is holiness. He laid his hand on mine and stopped me. Son, he said, Your love, all love, is of inexpressible value to me. But it may have precious time. It may save precious time. Here, he suddenly looked very Scotch. If I inform ye that I am already well acquainted with these biographical details, in fact, I have noticed that your memory misleads you in one or two particulars. Oh, said I, and became still. Ye had started, said my teacher, to talk of something more profitable. Sir, said I had almost forgotten it, and I have no anxiety about the answer now, though I have still a curiosity. It is about these ghosts. Do any of them stay? Can they stay? Is any real choice offered to them? How do they come to be here? Did ye never hear of Refrigerum? A man with your advantages might have read it in Prudentis. Not, thou mention, Jeremy Taylor. The name is familiar, sir, but I'm afraid I've forgotten what that means. It means that the damned have holidays, excursions, ye understand. Excursions? To this country? For those that will take them. Of course, most of the silly creatures don't. They prefer taking trips back to Earth. They go and play tricks on the old daft woman ye call mediums. They go and try to assert their ownership of some house that once belonged to them, and ye get what's called a hunting. Or they go to spy on their children, or literary ghosts hang about in public libraries to see if anyone's still reading their books. But if they come here, they can really stay. Aye, you'll have heard that Emperor Trajan did, but I don't understand. Is judgment not final? Is there really a way out of hell into heaven? It depends on the way you're using the words. If they leave that gray town behind, it will not have been hell. To any that leave it, it is called purgatory, and perhaps ye have better not called this country heaven. Not deep heaven, ye understand. Here, he smiled at me, ye can call it the valley of the shadow of life. And yet, to those who stay here, it will have been heaven from the first. And ye can call those sad streets in the town yonder the valley of the shadow of death. But to those who remain there, they will have been hell, even from the beginning. I suppose he saw that I looked puzzled, for presently he spoke again. Son, he said, ye cannot in your present state understand eternity. When Anados looked through the door of the timeless, he brought no message back, but ye can get some likeness of it if ye say that both and evil, when they are fully grown, become retrospective. When Anados looked through the door of the timeless. He brought no message back, but ye can get some likeness of it, if ye say that both good and evil, when they are fully grown, become retrospective. Not only this valley, but all their earthly past will have been hell, or will have been heaven to those who are saved. Not only the twilight in that town, but all their life on earth too will then be seen by the damned to have been hell. That is what mortals misunderstand. They say of some temporal suffering, no future bliss can make up for it, not knowing that heaven, once attained, will work backwards and turn even that agony into glory. And of some sinful pleasure they say, let me have but this, and I'll take the consequences, little dreaming how damnation will spread back and back into their past and contaminate the pleasure of it, the pleasure of sin. Both processes begin even before death. The good man's past begins to change so that his forgiven sins and remembered sorrows take on the quality of heaven. The bad man's past already confirms to his badness and is filled only with dreariness. And that is why, at the end of all things, when the sun rises here and the twilight turns to blackness down there, the blessed will say, we have never lived anywhere except in heaven. And the lost, we were always in hell. And both will speak truly. Is that not very hard, sir? I mean, that is the real sense of what they will say. In the actual language of the lost, the words will be different, no doubt. One will say he has always served his country, right or wrong, and another that he has sacrificed everything to his art. And some that they have never been taken in. And some that, thank God, they've always looked after number one. And nearly all that, at least, they've been true to themselves. And the saved? The saved, what happens to them is best described as the opposite of a mirage. What seemed, when they entered it, to be the veil of misery turns out, when they look back, to have been a well, and where present experience saw only salt deserts, memory truthfully records that the pools were full of water. And then those people are right who say that heaven and hell are only states of mind. Hush, he said sternly. Do not blaspheme. Hell is a state of mind. He never said a truer word. And every state of mind left to itself, every shutting up of the creature within, the dungeon of its own mind, is, in the end, hell. But heaven is not a state of mind. Heaven is reality itself. All that is fully real is heaven. For all that can be shaken will be shaken, and only the unshakable remains. But there is a real choice after death. My Roman Catholic friends would be surprised, for souls in purgatory are already saved. And my Protestant friends would like it no better, for they'd say that the tree lies as it falls. They're both right, maybe. Do not fash yourself with such questions. Ye cannot fully understand the relations of choice and time till you are beyond both, and ye were not brought here to study such curiosities. What concerns you is the nature of choice itself, and that ye can watch them making. Oh. Well, sir, I said, that needs explaining. What do they choose, these souls who go back? I have yet seen no others. And how can they choose it? Milton was right, said my teacher. The choice of every lost soul can be expressed in the words, better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. There is always something they insist on keeping, even at the price of misery. There is always something they prefer to joy, that is, to reality. Ye see it easily enough in a spoiled child that would sooner miss its play and its supper than say it was sorry and be friends. Ye call it the sulks, but in adult life it has 100 fine names: Achilles' wrath, Coriandus' grandeur, revenge, injured merit, self-respect, and tragic greatness, and proper pride. Then is no one lost through undignified vices, sir? Through only mere sensuality? Some are, no doubt. The sensualist, I allow ye, begins by pursuing a real pleasure, though a small one. His sin is the less, but the time comes on when, though the pleasure become less and less, the craving fiercer and fiercer, and though he knows that joy can never come that way, he prefers to joy the mere fondling of unappeasable lust. It would not have it taken from him. He'd fight to the death to keep it. He'd like, well, to be able to scratch. But even when he can scratch no more, he'd rather itch than not. He was silent for a few minutes, and then began again. You'll understand. There are innumerable forms of this choice. Sometimes forms that one hardly thought of at all, on a whole shelf full of books about it. He began by being philosophical, but in the end he took up physical research, psychical research. It grew to be his only occupation, experimenting, lecturing, running a magazine, and traveling too, digging out queer stories among Tibetan imams, lamas, imas, and being initiated into brotherhoods in Central Africa. Proofs and more proofs, and then more proofs again were what he wanted. It drove him mad if ever he saw anyone taking an interest in anything else. He got into trouble during one of your wars for running up and down the country telling them not to fight because it wasted a lot of money that ought to be spent on research. Well, in good time, the poor creature died and came here. There's no power in the universe that would have prevented him staying and going on to the mountains. But do you think that did him any good? This country was no use to him at all. Everyone here had survived already. Nobody took the least interest in the question. There was nothing more to prove. His occupation was clean gone. Of course, if he would only have admitted that he mistaken the means for the end and had a good laugh at himself, he could have begun all over again, like a child, and entered into joy. But would not do that. He cared nothing about joy. In the end, he went away. How fantastic, I said. Do you think so? Said the teacher, with a piercing glance. It is nearer to such as you think than it is nearer to such as you than ye think. There have been men before now who got so interested in proving the existence of God that they came to care nothing for God himself, as if the good Lord had nothing to do but exist. There have been some who were so occupied in spreading Christianity that they never gave a thought to Christ. Man, ye see it in smaller matters. Did ye never know a lover of books, that with all his first editions and signed copies had lost the power to read them? For an order of charity had lost all love for the poor. It is the subtlest of all the snares. Moved by a desire to change the subject, I asked why the solid people, since they were full of love, did not go down into hell and rescue the ghosts. They were This is a long chapter, and so I'm going to finish it next time. I still got about 10 more pages. Thanks for listening, and have a good night.